Hey everyone, it's Les here, that little ed tech guy. Welcome to Google Certified Bootcamp. Thank you all for joining. I'm happy that we have some people joining us from all over the world. You have to give me a little bit of patience. This is going to be my first time today using StreamYard, so everything should go well, but if we have a couple glitches, please bear with us. As we get started here, we'll give it a few minutes. I see most of you have already started in the chat. If you don't mind, please just give us your name and where you're coming from, whether it be Kuwait or Canada or someplace else in the world. And if you use Twitter, please put your Twitter handle so that we can join you and follow you on Twitter. So let's take a minute and introduce yourself, and we're going to get started just in a few seconds. Alrighty, welcome to part one of Google Certified Educator Level 1 Bootcamp. I'm glad you all could be here today. Today's session is going to be primarily based on what you need to know in order to pass the Google Level 1 Certified Educator exam. And that goes on both platforms. So I'm going to be bouncing between two screens. My name is Les Moskaliuk. I am a Google Certified Educator, teacher in Kuwait at American United School of Kuwait. And, oops, sorry. And, oh, sorry. Someone who is extremely passionate about sharing the wealth that Google brings to us in ways of transforming our classrooms. We're in a time right now that is like no other, where learning how to use digital skills is so important, especially for teachers and for students. And having a base understanding of the Google skills is going to help transform your classroom and help meet the needs of the students as we start this upcoming school year. It is crazy as a Google certified trainer how much training is being done out there, and hearing the needs from teachers on what they need and what is going to help them get through this year. We're in uncertain times, and not knowing whether we're going to be in school or not be in school. Having that skill set is so important. And I know for some of you, wherever you are in the world, some school districts in the US and in Canada have mandated a certain level, whether you be Microsoft certified or Google certified. I know certain schools here in Kuwait as well has asked their teachers to, upon return to school, that you have your certification. So this information is, again, really important. This session is not how to use the skills. I'm going to give you an overview of some of the basic things that will help you learn how to use Google Classroom and the G Suite productivity tools. But I'm here to share with you the specific knowledge that you're going to need to pass this level 1 test. All right. So again, my name is Les Moskaliuk, a Google certified trainer. I have with me in the background Pete Goulet. She is an instructional coach at the school that I work at, AUS. She's helping us in the background moderate some chats and helping feed some information to you through the YouTube live chat. So thank you, Pete, for helping us today and getting us going. Let me present this screen. It's a long session today. We're going to be here for roughly about 2 hours to 3 hours. This is a YouTube live session, so it is being broadcasted. The session will be uploaded for you probably about an hour or two after the course, so you can go back and review any information that you may have missed. Take care of yourself, get a coffee, get comfortable. Feel free to ask any questions that you may have. I might miss them, but again, we have Pete in the background who's helping us. So throw questions in there that you may have, or you know, maybe some things that you want to know about that we can assist you with after, and we'll do our best. All right, quick little icebreaker for you. This is not on the Google test or on the Google certification exam yet, but it is extremely important as we break into the new school year and getting that social emotional wellness and touching base with our students. Although we're using Google Meets or we're using Zoom or you know, you're using Microsoft Teams to engage with your students, getting that that contact time with them and making it fun is a little important. And you know, we face some difficulties when we use Google Meets, that although we're seeing the students, we may not getting the reactions out of them. So Jamboard is a great little tool that I just want to show you about. Let me get out of this screen. I'm going to share the link with you. Pete, if you can put the Jam up, the Jam link on the chat, please. All right, you will see that you have a link in the chat. If you click that, it's going to take you to a Jamboard that I've created for you. And I see a bunch of you have already created it or have already connected. If you have never used Jamboard before, it's the same or it's easy to find by either opening a new browser tab. And what you need to remember is whatever you're searching for in Google, if it's one of the productivity tools, you can start typing Jamboard and it's going to open up Jamboard. The other thing that you can use is on your desktop when you're opening up a new tab, you can click in the waffle, as many people call it, as multiple names, but a lot of people refer to it as the waffle, and scroll down and you will see Jamboard. So Jamboard will open up, and in here it's a very simple, basically a whiteboard for you. And all I would like you to do is take your cursor over and you'll see here that you have a sticky note. Click on the sticky note and type your name, where you're coming from, whether it be a country or your school if you so to share. And again, that Twitter handle. And I'm going to explain to you why I've been talking about Twitter. It's not that I'm looking for followers. It's not that I'm looking to capture your attention. So I've typed in a sticky note and I'm going to just click over here, change it. It is all based on the size. You can't adjust the text or anything like that, but you will see that it'll pop up. Now, many of you, maybe I've typed my Jam, but I don't know where it is. All the sticky notes are always going to populate on top of each other. So as you can see here, this is something to keep note as for teachers. Any student can go into the Jam and edit others' documents. So you need to set some norms in using this. And this is, again, a great icebreaker for students to, you know, if you haven't seen your students all summer, or you haven't, you know, talked to them in a couple days, depending on your lesson structure, this is just one of those where you could say, hey, just do a touch-in. I just want to, you know, tell me how you're feeling. And it could be then anonymous, where a student is just writing, I'm not feeling well today, or you'll see what we dive into a little bit in a second. So this is a Jamboard, and as you will see at the top of my browser screen, I apologize for my wandering eyes if you're looking at me, because I have multiple monitors going. You will see that I have arrows, and those were referred to as different scenes or different frames, sorry. So if I click on the next frame, it's going to take me to the next frame. Some people refer to this as slides, but in Jamboard, they refer to them as frames. So here you've all posted on the first frame. What I'd like you to do is go to the second frame. And I know that in the survey, we have, you can do this at a different time because we may have, 100 people all trying to access the Jamboard and may be overwhelmed. But you can log in and go to the second slide and tell me how confident you are with your Google skills. Do you think right now, if I gave you the test, you would be able to pass? Or, is that why you're here? Or is there a lot of things that you really need help with? If there's things that you're unsure of, post that into the second slide, and I'll do my best to respond to some of those questions or some of those needs through an email or a group that we create for tomorrow's class. So a quick little introduction to Jamboard. We're going to come back to it, okay? Going back to our slide deck. Again, Jamboard is such an awesome tool. It can be used in a million different ways, and I'm going to have a video up relatively shortly on my YouTube channel for teachers on how to use Jamboard effectively, especially as we go digital and paperless. It can be just an incredible tool. So we are today talking about the Google Level 1 certification test. And for those of you who are familiar with Google, you may have heard about the test and are wondering, how do I take it? What are the links that I need to go to? There are two testing platforms, and I'm going to be honest with you right now. It hasn't gone as well as Google has planned. What I'm teaching you and all the information that I'm sharing with you right now is based on the Criterion and the Web Assessor platform, and that is through the Teacher Education Google website. And to access the Teacher Education website, you'll see the link right here where you can connect. But the Teacher Education website is the Teacher Center with Google. And when you've gone to this website, this is the previous one that Google was using that they were supposed to get rid of in the end of June. And they were moving to a new testing platform. But with the overwhelming amount of people who are doing the certification test right now, they've left both platforms open. I saw a question that came up and said, is Jamboard free? Yes, Jamboard is free. So it's something you definitely want to investigate or follow me on YouTube and watch for upcoming videos. But going back to the testing center, there's two places that you can get this information from. And that is one, going to Teacher Center with Google. So if you in your Google or in your Google Chrome browser, type in the Omni box, and this is important for you to know. It's that one word called Omni box. The Omni box is what most people refer to as the search bar. The reason why it's called the Omni box in Google is because it's not just a search bar for a Chrome or an internet browser. It searches your Google Drive, it searches your Gmail, it searches everything. So Google calls it the Omni box. If you have a piece of paper and a pen, write that down because it's a question that's going to show up or a topic that's going to show up someplace in your presentation. Dominique, thank you. The slide deck is going to be shared with you. I meant to do that first thing. I got all excited about being here with you guys today. So I'm going to get that shared with you right away. Pete, if you're hearing me in the background, if you don't mind sharing the slide deck link for people. This is one of the great things about StreamYard is you get to have moderators in the background. There's 101 people watching this, so it's a little difficult to, for one person to go through both. So that will come right away, the access to the slides. All right, so you're going to be using the information for the Criterion website. And if you are unaware of what you need to do, you need to use your personal email address. Many people use their school accounts, and I highly discourage that. You never know how long you're going to be at your school for. You may be at a school and you leave the school and they disable your internet access or your Gmail account, and then you forget your password, and then you can no longer access your previous account information, your certifications. So any certifications that you do, I would highly recommend that you keep them to your personal account. For some of you, if your school is paying for your test, they may require you to use your the school account because the school's paying for it. But again, I would encourage you to use your personal account. The test is 180 minutes. It's 3 hours long, and you need to have a webcam accessible to you. Google uses artificial intelligence to watch whether it's you in the screen or whether somebody else is jumping in and taking the test. So you need to find yourself a nice quiet spot for 3 hours and to take the test. The test is $10. It's what I would consider extremely inexpensive for you to have that Google certification badge. When you get that badge, many people are very, very proud to show it off, and Google is proud to see it. So it's one of those that you attach to your email signatures and you show it proudly out there. Here's one of the pluses. You're taking or you're listening to this course right now, and I'm going to share some resources with you. Pete shared the slide deck with you, so you have access to that slide deck. I would ask that, if you happen to use that slide deck for personal resources and you're sharing with your staff, that you give credit where credit is due. But one of the nice things about Google is it's not an open book test, but you get to use supports. So, many questions that I get are, can I have another browser tab open? Can I have another device with me? And the answer to that is yes, yes, and yes. You have these resources that I'm giving you, and I'll show you throughout we go through this slide deck that built into this slide deck, there's a ton of resources for you, as well as information that is going to support you in the questions that you may or may not know. One great question that just showed up: what if I lost electricity or internet connection during the test? Ironically, as that question pops up, you need to make sure that you have a stable connection. You need to find, and it shows up on the next slide deck, but you need to make sure that you find information or you find a time that you're going to have consistent internet. If you're in Kuwait, like me, during the day, internet is great. Anytime after 6 o'clock till about 3 in the morning, it just goes, it just totally tanks. So if you're planning on taking your test and you're sitting there in stateside and you know that there's a big storm coming, you may want to hold off on taking that test because you don't get an exemption. It's just that 3 hours that you get. And if you happen to, have your power go out or your internet cuts out or you have to reboot, oftentimes many people can just reboot and jump back into the test and continue on. But if your power goes out for a few hours, you have a support, which is right here, where you can email Google and explain your situation to them. However, I have to tell you that 3 months ago, Google would have answered you like that, almost instantaneously. Right now, their response time is about 3 weeks because there is literally thousands of people taking this test every single day, and the emails that they're getting in are just overwhelming. So it's something that I consistently am reading in my emails in the Google Trainer group, but just make sure that you have a propping test in window. If you fail the test, you have to wait. You got 14 days that you have to wait, and then you can take the test again. If you fail the test, unfortunately, you have to pay the $10 again. If you pass or you fail it the second time, then you gotta wait 60 days. And if you pass it or don't pass it the third time, then you gotta wait an entire year. But I really hope that with you watching these videos and you getting the resources that I'm sharing with you today, that you won't have that situation. I'm giving you all the testing info, but once we jump into the information on what you need to know, I'm sure you'll feel a lot more comfortable. Okay. So again, when you're doing the test, don't be afraid to use Google as a support. If you don't know what support or Google support is, it's a phenomenal tool, and you'll see that in the documents that I share with you. As well, have multiple devices. So I can tell you right now, I'm sitting in front of, this sounds super nerdy, but I'm sitting in front of 3 monitors and a Chromebook on the side. So I have a Chromebook over here that is just giving me my little agenda and helping me follow the YouTube chat. And over here, I got a bunch of other content. So if you can split screen and throw your tabs up on another window, by all means. Again, Google is trying to keep this at a difficult level. They don't want to make it super easy, so that just anybody is Google certified. You need to know, the skills. So, but yes, you can use devices. Please, please, please know that you are going to sign an NDA with Google. An NDA is a non-disclosure agreement. So when you sign up to take the test, they're going to say, here's the NDA. Most people don't read it. It's like, joining Twitter or Instagram. You just go, yep, I accept the terms and agreement. An NDA basically says that you're not going to share any of the testing information. So, I mean, if you sit there and you hold up your mobile phone like this and you're taking pictures of the screen, Google's a pretty smart cookie. They're going to figure that out. You Gmail your friends some, hey, here's some test questions. Again, Google's a pretty smart, quick cookie. And I don't want you to lose your Google certification because you shared some, test questions with your friend or your colleague. As teachers, we have a level of integrity. Just say study. I'll help you out what you don't need to know, but don't share the questions and don't take screen captures and stuff like that. Lock yourself in a quiet room, and stay focused for those 3 hours. And one important thing to do is pin your tabs. So if you don't know how to pin your tabs, this is how you pin a tab. If you're looking at my screen right now, you'll see that I have tabs that are really small that look like a file folder. And then you see that I have tabs which we normally see are really big. And the big tabs have an X beside them. So if I look over here at this new tab, this allows me to close it. But if I go over here, if I click on these, there's no option to close it. So when you start your testing window, and I'll explain it in a second, when you start your testing window, pin a tab. And how you pin a tab is simply put your cursor over top of the tab that you want, right click, and you will see pin. And if you pin it, it makes it into a small little tab. And now all of a sudden, you can't close that tab. If you want to close that tab, you have to right click it again and go unpin. So this is really important. When you are taking your test, I would highly recommend that you unpin tabs. If you're a teacher like me who has a gabillion tabs open because I go to a website and I'm like, oh, this is good, I'll get back to it, and there's important ones like your Google Classroom that you just don't want to accidentally close, pin it so it always stays there, okay? All right, let's get back to full screen. And another one, there's been issues with Chromebooks, especially if it's a school managed device. Sorry. If you have a Chromebook, Chromebooks are great tools, phenomenal tools. But if it's school managed, you may not be able to access or go into incognito mode depending on the settings that the Google admin have set up. So just be cautious of using a Chromebook if that's your main device. I would recommend that you use another one. When you go to Web Assessor, they're going to give you some information, and they're going to ask you, you know, a login, a username. They're going to ask you to create a username and password. It's your Gmail account, so whatever you sign in with your Gmail account. You know, create that strong password that has alphanumeric as well as uppercase, lowercase, and symbols. And when it asks you what your primary relationship is, you want to put just Educator, okay? If you are using ProctorU, which I'll talk about right away, they're going to ask you who you're associated with, and you put Google. So if you use Criterion when you're signing up, choose Educator as your primary relationship with Google. And in ProctorU, if they ask you what your relationship is, you write Google, okay? This is important as well. When you sign up to take your test with Criterion, you have 7 days from the moment they give you your password, your username and password. So it's happened to me. My level 2 many years ago, I was at an ITSE conference and talking to some Google people, and they gave me a little voucher to say, you know, here, take your next certification test, and it was only good for 7 days. I signed up. I shouldn't say it was good for 7 days, but I signed up thinking, oh, I'm going to take the test. I was at home in the summertime, and all of a sudden I looked at my calendar. I'm like, uh-oh, I wonder if I can take the test. And sure enough, I logged in, and that free test that I got was now null and void. And of course, that was the level 2 test, which was $25, but you know, it is what it is. So Candace is saying pin tabs won't stay closed when the browser's closed. That is correct. However, the nice thing about Google is when you open up your Chrome browser again, it often asks if you want to restore your closed pins. When you get your email from Criterion, this is really important. There are so many issues that are happening with people taking the test right now, whether it be Criterion or ProctorU. And 90% of the issues are because people are not following the instructions. The simplest one that I can tell you right now that everybody makes mistakes on is they ask you to log in to the test. And everybody logs in with their personal account. They're like, oh, well, I signed up to Criterion or Web Assessor with Moskaliuk@gmail.com, and this is my password, and then they can't get in, and they don't know why, and they get frustrated, and then they end up sending a support ticket saying, I can't log into my test. And that's because they didn't read the email in full detail where it said you must sign in with these credentials that we give you. They give you, just like a school domain would, they're going to give you a specific username and password to sign into because you're logging into a different testing site and you need to log into their domain so you get access to the source files. So when they ask you to complete a test, they may ask you to create a Google site and in there embed the Word doc or the Word document, the Google document that they gave you that's in the Google Drive. So it's not coming from your drive. It needs to come from that account, that mock account that they gave you. So really, really, really important to read the instructions very carefully, okay? As well as they're showing you here, make sure that you've updated your version of Chrome and that you have a stable internet connection on a web browser. As well, they're telling you here, do you want to accept the NDA? It doesn't tell you, here's the NDA. Just know that that's what's happening. So that's a bunch of information to get you going for the test. Now, again, I said there's 2 testing platforms. There is Criterion, and I'm encouraging you right now, and the reason why I'm giving you this information is that Criterion has been the stable platform that has been used for the last 7-8 years. There is the new testing platform, ProctorU, and ProctorU is just extremely overwhelmed with the amount of people that are taking the test. It's using a lot more artificial intelligence, and because honestly, people just aren't following the instructions properly. They're getting a lot of errors. They're getting server errors because it's overwhelmed on the system. They're, the system is shutting out for different reasons, and Google is aware of all of these issues and they're working with them. So I would encourage you to, if you can, sign in and use the Criterion website. And if that doesn't fail, then use the ProctorU. They're both the same. The tests are going to be the same. They're just a little different. ProctorU will stay available, or not ProctorU, sorry, Criterion and the Web Assessor will stay open until July of 2021. So we have a full year to get through it. So don't feel that you're in a rush right now. A lot of people are going to ProctorU. So if anything, there's a little more success and people that are a little more satisfied in the Criterion Web Assessor. Okay, so Criterion and Web Assessor is the same thing. Now, again, in this slide deck that all of you have, if you click on here, it's going to take you to the ProctorU website. So again, this is the testing center, the teacher center for the Criterion Web Assessor. In order for you to take this test, you simply click on the Fundamentals Training. This course right here on what I'm teaching you is not going to just allow you to pass the test. You still need to go through the fundamentals training. And I mean, if you don't know by now the differences between synchronous and asynchronous learning and blended learning and flipped learning, flipped classrooms and stuff, all of that is in, a lot of these base questions. A year ago, people didn't know what a synchronous lesson was or an asynchronous lesson. So it was difficult and people didn't get it. Now, if you ask somebody what a synchronous lesson is, they're going to say, oh, well, that's Google Meet, or, that's using Google Classroom where we're having interactive chats, or we're using Google Hangouts and the kids are all creating, talking at the same time, and it's one-on-one, face-to-face or live chat. So you do need to still go through these modules. I mean, if you're a googly person, you'll probably do just fine. If you're someone who's been teaching for 15 years, you'd be just fine. But it's the people who are not really tech savvy yet that I would highly recommend that you just really go through and go through all these lessons. They don't take a lot of time, and one of the pluses to it, at the end of every unit that you do, there is a check-in. So you just check between the two. So while I was asking, do we choose between ProctorU and Criterion? Yes, you do. But I would encourage you to use the this website right now that I'm talking about, which is the Google for Education Teacher Center, which takes you to the Criterion Web Assessor test. So if you scroll down, if you go through to this website on just the Teacher Center, you go through, sorry, the units, but at the beginning, come on, gotta love technology. Is Web Assessor the same as ProctorU? No, they are two completely different platforms. Again, Google was migrating to ProctorU, but with COVID and the overwhelming amount of people, the ProctorU system wasn't prepared for it. Oops, I went too far back. When you go to the Teacher Center and you go to training, my apologies, I clicked one far back. Gina is saying, can I use my laptop and phone instead of a split screen? Absolutely. As you go down here, it'll say, do you want to register? And then if you go, you can take your test and register for your test at the end of this. When you click on it, it'll say, go through the training modules, you log in, and you'll be able to register for your test through Criterion here. If you're going to use ProctorU, you go to edu.google.com. And in the slide deck that I've shared with you, so in here where you click on ProctorU, I've given you, thanks to Megan Swoop, she is as well a Google trainer. She created a step-by-step sign in for what you need to do to take or to sign up with the ProctorU. So I'm not going to go through that, but that information is in there if you choose to use ProctorU. All right, back to our session. This comes from Google. This was a message that I got from a lady who is the head of Google Education. Her name is May. And she said, here are the main issues that people are having. And this is in there. And you will see that if you are having some of these issues, please read these questions. So if you happen to get a 500 internal 500 error, you get kicked out of your exam, or you try and sign up and you get the the mailbox is full and you'll get that frustration. 100% you're going to get that frustration. But a bunch of Google trainers all got together and said, listen, a bunch of the people that we're training are having these issues. How can we help them? So the Google trainers created a Google form, which is in here. And this is a form that has been shared with ProctorU and Criterion and Google EDU. So you can fill in the form and it'll say, have you contacted the Google support link first in your testing site? But if not, fill in this information and they're looking at it so that we can support you to the best of your abilities. If you have issues with your exam, I can't help you. There's nothing I can do because it's coming directly from the testing platform. What you do need to do is whatever testing platform you're using, whether it be ProctorU or Criterion, please, in their website, they have a support link that will give you access to filling in a request. And that is right on the last page. So if I go back one page, oops, 2 pages, sorry. No, my apologies. I didn't post it on there. I will post it on this slide deck right after, but if you fill in the form, that will help you. So those are the 2 testing platforms, Criterion, Web Assessor. Again, getting started with it is probably the hardest thing, signing in, but once you sign up and you get registered for your test, you'll be good to go. One thing to note is with Criterion, if you sign up for a test, they're going to give you your code and then you can just log in and take your test whenever you want. If you sign up with ProctorU, they ask you when you'd like to schedule your test. So they give you a time, and it doesn't matter what time zone you're in. I mean, that's kind of irrelevant. You just choose a time and it basically blocks a slot for you so that the system is not overwhelmed, okay? But yeah, so now as we're gonna get googly. In this is important for you to have a look at. I have shared with you in this slide deck a wealth of information. And as you know, within Google Slides, I've created a slide deck, and I'll keep referring to it as a slide deck because that's important to know. We don't call it a slide presentation or a PowerPoint presentation. Google refers to it as a slide deck. Okay, so don't be confused by that. In the slide deck, you will see that I've given you some information, but I've also linked, hyperlinked specific information. Now, again, as you're taking the test, you may be, I need to find that Google support because I'm not sure about Google Drive. So just click on Drive, and I've linked it so that it's automatically going to take you to the support.google page that is specific for Drive. So anything that you try and do, or as you go through the modules, whether it be in Criterion or ProctorU, they're always going to source you back to Google. So you have this right now. So if you happen to have the slide deck open while you're taking the test, there's a few notes for you there that may help you along the way. I'm not giving you answers to the test or telling you. I'm just going to set you up with what you need to know so that when you do this test, you're well prepared. So In Google Drive, these are the things we're going to discuss in a second. And what you'll also see right here is I've given you a Drive task. So in the Drive task, this is a scenario. Now, if you're not sure of how the tests are based, your level 1 and level 2 tests are about 20 to 25 multiple choice questions. And the multiple choice questions, it's important to read the questions properly. As a teacher, you say this all the time to your students. You're like, read the questions, just read all the questions and you'll do fine. But they don't ever read the questions properly. And then you're like, they come after you and, you know, why did I get this wrong? Well, in the multiple choice questions, they're not going to ask you, you know, one response. They may ask you specifically for 3 responses. So they might say, if you were to teach a lesson with synchronous learning, what tools would you use to assist in that? And they might have Google Drive, they might have Google Classroom, they might have Google Meets, and they might have Google Hangouts. And right now you may be thinking, okay, I want synchronous and I'm gonna do Google Meets. So you choose Google Meet because that's probably the best one because it's face-to-face with video, but Google Hangouts is like a, you know, a chat group that could also work as well. So you really need to read the question and make sure you're focusing on what it is. One of the questions may just, you know, one of the responses just may be out to left field, and you'll know that. But just make sure you read the question. Deb is asking, are the multiple choice questions the same or similar to what is in the practice packet? They're similar. They're very similar. Again, Google wants to prepare you. So as Deb is asking this, if you've gone through the training online through the whether it be the Teacher Center or the edu.google.com, if you've gone through the fake tests or the mock tests at the end or the unit summaries, those are the similar questions, okay? But again, it's really important that you read the question closely. Now, the test is going to have between 20 to 25 multiple choice questions. They're not difficult. They give you a checkbox, which is really valuable to reflect on after. So for me, the level 1 test, I find the level 1 test harder than the level 2 test. But the level 2 test, I probably finished pretty quickly. But I was so worried that I was going to make a mistake. So there was a whole bunch that I checked off that I wanted to review. So if there was anything that I had the slightest inkling that I wasn't sure, I would check the review button and then I would do a support search for it and then go back and make sure that I had the question correct or the answer correct. So you have that. And I think that's what consumes a lot of time. But you'll have 25 multiple choice questions, and then you have about 11 scenarios. And in a scenario is basically the task that I'm giving you right here. So I'm giving you the information, these mock scenarios. And if there's anything that is the golden ticket in your internet searches is for you to find mock scenarios on what's going to be on the test. Again, this isn't the questions on the test, but these are similar to what you may face. So let's look at what a task might be, and then let's go back to Google Drive and have a quick overview of the Google Drive and what you need to know. So you'll have here a Google document. And within the document, it'll say Google Drive. So here's what you would need to do. And for some of you, if you're googly, you're going to be like, oh, this is super easy. And that's great if it is for you. For some of you, it might not be. But in the tasks, know that, you know, if they ask you to star something in your Google Drive, that might not necessarily be in a task, but it's still something that you might need to do. So if you look here in part 1, it's basically saying, go to Google Drive, create a folder, call it level 1 prep. Within there, add a doc and create another folder within it, and then change the color, and then share it with select people. And in here, if this was a paid course, I would say to you, share this information with me and I'll review it and then give you suggestions to help you through this. But as this isn't a paid course, you can just work through these tasks and maybe, check with your colleagues. I would say, if there was only 20 people here, by all means, send me an email and I'll do my best. But my inbox has been bombarded with the trainings that I've been doing. So you can work through these. Okay, but again, I'm setting you up for the best possible situation to help you achieve success in this. All right, Google Drive. So again, for those of you who are googly, you can Salt 180 or 1A or 8178 says, will the task be written out in steps like this? Similar. They'll give you something similar to that. I mean, it's going to be text-based and it's going to say do this and this. Just make sure that you follow the steps properly, because they might ask you to share the document with a specific person that is in your group. So it's not somebody that is, it's not just a generic username. They want you to actually find somebody that is in your contacts list and in your groups. So it's not, it might sound a little bit difficult, but it's not that difficult once we get to it, okay? All right, so again, going to our Google Drive, I'm just going to open up a new browser, and I can, in my Omnibox, just start typing Drive, and it's either going to open up my Drive instantly, as you see right there, or I can go to a new browser tab and I can click on my waffle. This was a big debate, a Twitter debate a couple days ago, whether it's called, what do people call this? Some people say it's a matrix. Some people call it the 9 square. Most people refer to it as waffle. Is there an official Google name? I don't know. I don't think so. I'm a trainer, and I mean, as far as I know, everybody usually refers to it as the waffle. So if you click on the little waffle here or the Google Apps button, you can access your Drive. So as my, as my Drive opens up, bear with me for 1 second. I'm using 2 different computers, and my Chromebook just closed on me, so I need to open it up so that I can see, because I'm sharing full screen with you guys, so I can't see my agenda. Gotta love tech. What would you do without additional displays or extended displays in 2020? All right, sorry about that, folks. Okay, so as you see here in Google Drive, what shows up in your Google Drive is going to be your quick access folder. And that is the most recent documents that you've opened. So as you see here, there's the Jamboard that we created, the registration form that all of you signed up on, the slide deck, and all these different documents, as well as a whole bunch of your files that are in here. So accessing your Drive, I mean, that's pretty straightforward. If you want to create a new folder, you simply click the New button and go to New Folder or File Upload. So here, if we just create a new folder, what you need to do, this is just called a test folder. Click on Create. And here is what I like to do when it comes to test folders or different folders. As you notice right here, it always goes alphabetical. And it's always one of those of, well, how do I get the most important document or the newest folder at the top? And my little cheat for that is if you right click on it and you click the rename button, I put a period symbol before it, or dot, depending on where you're coming from. We have people all over the world here, but if you put a dot or a period, and you see that it automatically went to the top. If you are creating subfolders within a folder, so in my test folder, if I wanted to create, you know, maybe this was 2020, 2021 school year, you may want to just highlight those folders and put like a 1 or a 2 or a 3 or a 4 first, so they stay in the sync. One of the questions just popped up: what happens if the internet went off during the tests for a second or two? Just restart the test and log in again, and hopefully that won't consume as much of your time. All right. So in your folders, if we go back to Drive, you just saw that I right-clicked on a folder. If I right-click on a folder, it's our shortcut. And one of the nice things that you can do is you can color your folder. So if you want things to stick out so they're prominent, and right there, you can just color a folder. You may be asked to do that. If you are looking for folders or you're looking for files, this is one of my personal folders, and I also have my testing folder that we're going to use for the next session. But the nice thing about Google Drive is I tend to think that I'm somewhat organized or kind of organized, but my Google Drive is an absolute mess. And the reason why my Google Drive is a mess is because of the Omnibox, because you can search for absolutely anything up here in this folder. If you know the name of it or where this file came from or anything, it's so easy to just, you know, go for, if I do test, it's automatically going to open up test folder. You'll see that it's opening anything that's in here. If I'm looking for someone that is a specific person, I can click this button right here in my search options. And in the search options, I could say, what am I looking for? Well, I'm looking for a Google form, and who's the owner. So if you're within your school domain and you know that your principals have done this, or the principal shared a document, you could just click on owner and go by a specific person and then put that person's name in. So again, this is all going to show from me, but if I said it was coming from, you know, a certain person here, all the files from that individual person, if they shared them with you, are going to be in there, or you click anywhere. So you can also go modify it. If you are sitting, you know, I'm bad for it. I'm sitting in my tech department meetings and I make an agenda, and then I leave the meeting and I completely forget about it. And then I look at my PLN folder. I'm like, oh, I forgot to put the agenda in it. Where is it? And then I can't find it. So I just look for a Google Doc from October and, you know, put the word agenda, and all of a sudden, boom, it pops up and shows me what agendas were from October, and then I just can drag that over. So that's one of the awesome features about searching in Google Drive. And that's important to know, because without knowing how to search in here, people get lost. And if you know how to search in your Google Drive, it makes it so easy to find your documents. Your life it becomes a game changer, and hopefully you don't become like me where you just get a super messy Google Drive. Okay, so you need to know how to create folders. You need to know how to star your folders, and to star your folders, you simply just go add to starred. And what that means is it's an important folder. And your starred is essentially like favorites, but we don't call favorites because we're not Microsoft. So if you go into your starred, that just highlights your favorite documents or your important documents. So again, if you have specific folders, if you're in your PLNs, your professional learning networks, or you have PLCs, your groups in your school, maybe you create a folder just for that, or maybe whatever your classes are, you have important information that you always just want to look in. It's easy to find that starred folder. You'll also see that the star shows up here. Okay. Shared drives. Shared drives used to be called Google Team drives, but because of Microsoft Teams coming out, they changed the name and they just simplified it. They got rid of the Teams and just called it shared drives. Your shared drives aren't something that you need to really know for the level 1 test. But what you do need to know is, the functionality is the same. Your shared drives are created by your Google administrator, and those are given permissions so that as a teacher, you can add files to it, or basically you can add stuff to it, but you can't delete anything. And the reason for that is that, if you leave a school and you're working towards, let's say, a technology document, or you're working towards a school plan or whatever it may be, if you leave, those documents are always there, but not disappearing. Dave Brown. Hey, Dave. I know Dave from way back. Good to hear. Good to see you, Dave. Can you show us how to create a subfolder, example test folder, but then multiple years within it? So the test folder, quite simply, all you're doing with that is it would be no different than you creating a folder in your hierarchy. If I'm in the test folder, I quite simply just go in here and then go new folder. And if I called this, so for instance, my administrators are always asking for lesson plans. So I'm going to create a lesson plans folder. And as it creates that lesson plan folder, I'm then going to go into my lesson plans. And here's where I was telling you about creating that hierarchy and how you cheat. In lesson plans, I'm going to create a new folder, but I'm going to call this 1, and then I'm going to call it September. And then I'm going to go here, folder, and this is that cheat, October. And I put the 2. And the reason that I'm doing that is otherwise it's going to sort it alphabetically. It's not going to recognize that it is monthly. So as I want to sort these when I look at them, it's one way for you to organize yourself. So again, you can see the hierarchy here of a folder status. This is quite simply you just creating that hierarchy as you would in your basic, PC computer, or if you're using, a Chrome OS or in your Mac OS. It's basically the same. And Gina's asking how to put a document in that. It's either just a drag and drop. So if I minimize this screen and bear with me 1 second because I have to minimize my other screens. If I have an image here that I'm dragging from my other screen, I can just drag and drop a document and just plop it inside there. And it'll upload that document, and it's uploading it because it's going to the cloud. So there you go. It's right there. Or if I wanted to put a folder in a specific location, I click the new button and it gives me a file upload or the option for a folder upload as well. So if you have a whole folder that you'd like to upload, it's the same as just uploading it. I'm not sure why that these are here, to be honest with you, because everybody drag and drops. I don't ever click this file upload. I just, wherever I am, I just drag and drop everything. So that's one way that you can do it. And if you noticed and you were observant, you will see here that it says a Google Doc. So right now, if I wanted to, in this lesson October 2 folder or my lesson plans, I could go new and say, okay, well, I'm going to create a lesson plan for this. It's instantly going to create a Google document. And as soon as it loads, right here, as soon as it loads and I close it, just give it 1 second here. It's saving. It says it's saved to Drive. But as soon as I close it, you will see that in that folder right here is that untitled document that I didn't label. And if you have a document that's in there, as one of the things that you need to do is you need to rename the document. You just right click on it and go rename. Call it test file and go okay. If you need to delete a file, you just simply right click on it and you will notice that there is no delete. It is called remove. So you press the remove button and that will remove the file. This is an important one, so I'm going to remove this one. You have to remember that all of these files are up in your cloud. We're still working on Google Drive. And as you see right here in my Google Drive, I have 838 gigabytes of 2 terabytes in my drive. I got a lot of stuff in my drive. It's primarily my Google photos, but there's still a lot of stuff in my drive, a lot of videos, etc. But everything is in here. But if you want to access this picture, if you want to add this, or you want to download it, or you want to, share this, you got WhatsApp web open on your phone or on your computer, and you want to add the file, you just right click on the document and go download. Okay, click on the download button, and the download button will automatically send it into your downloads folder. A lot of people miss that one, and they're unsure of how to retrieve a document, and that's how you just simply download it. Again, right clicking on it, and you'll see that there's a lot of functionality. One of them is the view details. This is a really cool one, but not one that you need to know for your test. But since I have you all as a captive audience, when you click view details, one of the nice things about it is it'll show you when the document was last accessed, who it was shared by, if they updated it, etc., etc. So the view details is a neat function, especially as a teacher if you're looking at Google Docs. Okay, and then getting to it is important. Looking at sharing a file or getting a shareable link. So one of the nicest things and one of the most powerful things about Google is the collaboration tools that it allows you. So by clicking the share button, it's going to prompt a little sharing window. Now, for some of you, this is important. If you're working within your personal domain, your personal Gmail account, you can share generally with anybody. If you're working within your school domain may restrict who you can share with. They might not let you share with people outside of your domain. In order for that to happen, they have to what's called whitelist the domain or whitelist outside people. But to share a document, you simply just type in their email address. Now, if you're within your domain, and I'm going to assume that most of us are, we're using our Google EDU, our school accounts. This is a personal trainer account, but if you type in an email address that's within your domain, as soon as you start typing somebody's name, so for instance, if I had Pete in the background, Pete automatically shows up, as well as people that are in my contacts or in my Gmail, people who I've Gmailed before. So you just simply share, and then you just start typing the person's name. And again, most of us are sharing from within our own school domain. So if it's a matter of sharing to a student or a principal or whatever it may be, you just type their name, and it's going to show up everybody that's in that Google directory, which is basically your Google account. one of the other things that shows up is who do you want to share it with? And if you notice right here at the bottom, if I type in, I'm gonna put it with Pete. And if I put it with Pete, you'll see that I can make Pete an editor. A viewer is somebody who can just view the file. Commenter is someone who can make comments on it, or an editor is someone who can actually edit that file. As a teacher, not very often you want editors. So you don't want to share a document with the kids and make them editors, because then all of a sudden you have an assignment that you shared out with them, and instantly, every kid is accessing that or editing that file. So you often want to make them just viewers, and I'll explain when we get into Google Classroom how you can make a copy for each student. Okay. If you want to share outside, you can see right here, there's a little button that says change to anyone with the link. There used to be a lot of settings before with Google where you can change a whole bunch of the public settings on who and what you can do. If you are within your domain, you'll have access to this that you can share within your domain, specific people, or you can share publicly with everybody. As this is limited by the Google admin right now, I can either make people commenters, editors, or viewers. So for this right now, it says basically sharing with anyone on the link, or I go restricted. Restricted means if I put in the email address, those are the only people that can see the file. If I put anyone with the link, like you guys got the Google slide deck for the presentation, that means that all of you can view that slide deck, okay? And that's important. So that's sharing. If you're looking at the agenda for Google Drives, you'll see that it shows converting to Word and PowerPoint and Excel, etc. Google is awesome that way. They're friendly to everybody. So if you create a Google document, you can export it. So right here is a document that I'm going to share with you in a little bit. It is a phenomenal skills checklist that was created by a great Googler and a Google trainer and Google innovator. His name is Eric Kurtz. But if I wanted to save this as a Word document, I'm showing you this not because we're in Google Docs right now, but I'm showing you this because this is basically in every application. So it's in Slides, it's in Docs, it's in Sheets at the same time. So if you go to File and you go to the Download button, you will see that it says Download as a Word doc. So you can have it as a Word doc. It'll put it as an open document. It'll create it as an RTF or even a PDF. Or if within your class, let's say, for instance, you're using, Kindles or e-readers, you can create it as an EPUB book at the same time. So if you want to export it as a Word document, I'm not sure why you would want to use Word, but if you wanted to use it as a Word document, you could just click the File, Download, and go to Word, okay? And that goes the same if you're in Sheets. If you're in Sheets and you want to create it as an Excel document, you can do the same. If you want to use it as a PowerPoint, you do the same. I had a situation show up at the end of the school year where my elementary administrator had made a Google slide deck with a bunch of videos embedded in it. And she's like, we want timings. And I'm like, well, Google Slides doesn't do that. And she goes, well, we have to have this and this and this. And I said, well, okay, I can export it as a PowerPoint file. I can put it into PowerPoint. I can rehearse the timings, if you guys know what I'm talking about. I can rehearse the timings, and then in PowerPoint, I can export it as a movie and then put it into WeVideo and then add the stuff that we need to and make it work for you. And she was like, I don't understand any of that, but that sounds great. So again, tons of functionality, and Google doesn't limit, just Google products. So they're friendly to everybody, okay? And again, what is really important is this little feature right here, okay? There is a huge debate that goes on between Googlers in the world, whether people are list view or grid view. So if you see this little button right here, grid view gives you icons. So everything shows up like this, okay? If you are this view, it shows list view. I'm a list view person. Personally, I hate grid view. I like grid view when I'm looking at pictures, but otherwise I'm 100% list view. But this is how you can organize it to make it easier for yourself. And then there's one last button that I want to show you, and this is this little gearbox right here. Okay, the little gearbox is your friend, and you will see settings. If you click the settings button, you will see that it shows you your storage. It'll show you that you can adjust your notifications. You can adjust this. If you're one of those who doesn't like notifications, you can turn all your notifications off. So for instance, if someone shares a document with me, it's gonna prompt up. But what I wanna show you here, which is important, is these two buttons. One, the most important one, is offline. Right now, as we move to virtual learning for most of us, we have students who don't necessarily have internet access 24/7. That's one of the biggest issues right now is in America and around the world, students don't have access to online lessons and online documents all the time. For some of us, our connectivity is going to Starbucks and hanging out at Starbucks or McDonald's for 5 minutes to 10 minutes and getting some connectivity. And then, leaving and continuing our work. And that's where this button that says offline is. So if you as a teacher share this information with your students if they're using Chromebooks, what this means basically is that students can create Google documents, they can create Google Sheets, they can create slide decks offline, so they don't need internet access. And then the moment that there is internet access, the file is instantly uploaded to the Google Cloud. They don't ask you to upload it, they just automatically save it to the cloud. And then it also pulls all the other information down as well. So this is really important. I mean, I'm in Kuwait, and we have some affluent, parents in the school that I teach at. We have some wealthy students, but at the same time, a student messages me and says, I had no internet. And I'm like, how do you not have internet? Like, you just got dropped off in a Bentley. And they're like, well, we have internet, but I mean, I have like 4 brothers and 4 brothers and sisters at home. And we all share a hotspot, and I didn't have internet last night because my brothers were, playing Minecraft and a Fortnite all night, and it wasn't my turn. So this again allows that functionality. So this button right here is important to note, okay? If you have that piece of paper, make note of this one for the offline to remember to investigate that one. And again, it's in your settings button, and then go to general and offline, as well as upload documents. So for some of you, you may be transitioning from one school that was a Microsoft or an Office 365 school, and you have everything in Microsoft Word and PowerPoint and everything, and you're like, well, what do I do? I have all these Word docs, and I want to get them into a Google Doc. Well, if you click this button, convert uploaded file to the Google Docs editor, as soon as you upload them or add them to your folders, Google Docs is automatically going to create it from a Word document. Or even if you upload a PDF file, it can OCR, which is text recognition, and create it into a text file for you. So you don't have to worry about that. Unfortunately, not all the formatting stays perfectly, but it just saves you from having to type everything, okay? So these two buttons right here, this convert uploads and offline, are really important. All right, Google Drive. Yay. So As we finish Google Drive, let's just take a quick little timeout from our Google here for a second and go back to the slide deck. Again, you have information all about Google Drive right here that is accessible to you. You have the tasks sheet right here as well. And something that I didn't tell you yet, because you would have jumped ahead and not listened to me, but I've shared with you, I've created a resource document for you as well. So I've created a Google document for you right here, which basically summarizes all the units in the training sessions or training, online training from Criterion and from ProctorU. So there are certain units. So one of the units is going to be getting ready for the classroom. And in here, if you click this link, it's going to take you to that unit in Criterion. So it'll take you to Unit 1. If you click one of these links, it's going to take you directly to the Teacher Center and give you the resources for Google Classroom. So again, as I said to you, I can't tell you how to take this test. What I can do is simplify your life a little bit, where you're like, I'm not sure how to do this, or I'm not sure how to, you know, it talks about creating a class or how to share a class. How do I do that? If you click on the resource page, and I'll get to that in a second. So going back to the slide deck, if you scroll down a little bit, you guys will see that in the slide deck, there is a page right here. It gives you this link as well, okay? And again, for some of you who are listeners and paying attention at the same time, and for some of you who know this, if you scroll down on this document right here, which I've given you, right to the end of it, our good friend Eric Kurtz has just uploaded a new document as of June, which is the checklist. So if you look at a skills checklist right here, you'll see that Eric Kurtz has given us and said, okay, here are some of the things that you need to know. Very similar to what I'm sharing with you right now. Everybody adds a little extra to it. And then another great guy who I'm going to encourage as well, Tyler Tavener, who, if you want to follow on YouTube, Tyler took Eric Kurtz's checklist and he made videos for every one of those little tasks. I'm in the process of that right now. It's just time consuming. Tyler's been at it for a little while. So he's basically created a YouTube video, a very short YouTube video on how to do this. So again, all these links are here for you. So, you know, tests and exams are hard. We know that. You see there's students who get, you know, test anxiety and test stress, and us as educators and teachers, we hate having tests, and our principals say, okay, we need you to do this. And you're like, no. I'm trying to make this as user-friendly and easier and give as many supports to you as possible to help you succeed, all right? I want you using Google Tools. The students want you using Google Tools. The more you know how to use the tools, it's going to help you transform learning, and it's going to make the student or the lessons more engaging, more interactive for the students, and you're going to capture their attention. Technology is not, it's only a tool. I mean, 20 years ago, technology was the wow. Now, if you're not using technology, you're old school, you're dinosaur. I mean, the next teacher is going to come in and take your place. So the more you know about it, the better all of us are because of it, especially your students. So going back to the slide deck, I'm reading, are all of these links in the slide deck? Yes, they are. So our next topic is Google Docs. Again, if you click the hyperlink, it's going to take you to the Google support page as well. It's going to, I've given you a Google task, a document task on what you need to do. So if you're looking at this document, one of the scenarios is, and things that you need to know is creating a document. We're not spending time on that. That's very straightforward. I will explain the Explore tool, how to save effectively and where to save, renaming it, looking at the revision history, which is oh so important, especially now with virtual learning and students cheating and teachers having no way of being able to check that. You know, we have enough on our plates right now, but I mean, students, they want to do everything possible to cheat. So download as and collaborating and sharing again, and our headers and footers, which is pretty basic stuff. So I'm going to go through this one relatively quickly. And let's start creating, I'm going to close some of these tabs because these are those skill checklists. We've already gone through them. I'm going to create a new browser, Chrome browser. And here's one of the cool things that Google did. They went and bought a whole bunch of URLs and domains. So if you type in docs and you go docnew.new, it's instantly going to open up a new Google Doc for you. Oops, my apology. There you go. Thank you, Weil. Tyler Tavener. So again, opening up any of them in the productivity tool is really cool. Again, you hear me say the productivity tools, those are all the Google tools that we're using. For instance, Google Drive, Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, YouTube, Google Hangouts, Google Meet. We'll go through them, okay? So if you want to create a new Google Doc, you can just type in docs new. I would rather type in docs new than click a new tab and then wait for it to open. I could also go to my waffle and, pardon me, wait for this to load and then scroll down as well and go to Google Docs. I could also go to, if you were observant when we were in Google Drive, I could go to Google Drive and I could go new and then click the document. Sorry, it'll pop up at the bottom here. Click new document at the bottom. So there's different ways of opening up a Google Doc. And again, the easiest way, what I find, is just typing docs new or sheets new or slides new or sites new, and it'll open up one of those tools. So you're in a Google Doc. The first thing that you should be doing, please, 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 because Google auto saves instantaneously, the moment you open up a Google document, it saves it, okay? So the moment your cursor is blinking and you press a space bar, it's just saved it, even though there's nothing there. And being a technology teacher, and you know, it drives me nuts when I go to my students and I say, can you open up your files menu in your Chromebook? And I open it up and I say, open your drive, and then they open their drive and there is untitled, 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 untitled. There's 100 untitled files. And I mean, they're middle school kids, they're high school kids. And you say, well, where's, you know, the document that we were researching on a robotics project? And they're like, I don't know. Then they just start clicking everything. So please, first thing that you should be doing is encouraging your students to, no matter what it is, put it in as a doc. And I mean, if you're a teacher, you should be encouraging your students to put their name first and then what the document is, because that way, as a teacher, it makes it easier for you when they share a document with you, that you know who it's coming from. You automatically see their email, but you're going to get a student who might not be logged into their Google domain within the school. They're sending it from their personal account, and it doesn't show up as, you know, it shows up as ilovepinkbunnies@gmail.com, and you don't know who this email is coming from. So this is one way that you can help students organize it. Again, a lot of people aren't practicing their keyboarding skills. So the more you make them type, the better they're going to get at it. And one thing to take note for all of you right now is it says it's in my drive. So if you want to put it in a specific location, and I know somebody asked a question earlier on, how might we put a file in a specific location? Once you create this document, again, it's kind of like, I hate referring to this, but your Windows Explorer menu, where you would click on the file hierarchy, and this is where you would sort them. So if you click here, what it does is it opens up a very simple folder where there's my test folder. I can click this and say I want to put it in my lesson plans, and I want to put it in my September. So if I press the move button, it's going to move this file so it's in that folder. So even though I created a new one, I've put it in the exact spot that I wanted to do that. So you don't have to go file, save as, like we had to in a Windows operating system. If you don't have the folder that you want, you can create a new folder right here. So I'm just going to move it into this one right here. And then you'll also see it says that I've done this. Do I want to undo it because I made a mistake? No, I'm just going to dismiss this. And it also gives you to, same as we had in our Google Drive, this may be an important document. So hypothetically, we're working on graduation ceremony, and this is one of those files that I need to look at all the time because I'm getting 100 emails every day from the administrators. So I star that file so that I know that it's there. Okay. And that way we're good to go. All right, so we're not going to talk about formatting documents and things that you can do with the document. For the most part, you guys already know what to do. What I will say is important is inserting images. And one thing to note for you as teachers, as you're teaching digital citizenship to your students, if you have the students use the insert image and search from web, what you're getting is, one, your domain is going to safe search images. So the images that pop up are going to be student friendly for the most part. As well, images that show up are listed as modification or can be reused. So again, if I'm going to go insert, I can go image and go search from web. If this is an image that I wanted to use, I can click on it and go insert, and I just simply insert an image that way. You can upload images the same as you would with any other program that you're using. You can go from upload from your computer, from your drive. So if you have pictures that are saved in your Google Drive or in your photos or URL, et cetera, you're basically just adding images. If you put in some text and you need to hyperlink it, this is really important. Okay, this is where I'm a Google trainer and I get to say, all right, Google, you guys, you could have done a better job. Unfortunately, for those of you who are googly, you know that they used to have a Google shortener, which used to have like goo.gl. So instead of having this super long web name, you could just shorten it to like the bit.lys that I gave you at the beginning. But Google got rid of that one and hope that it's coming back soon. Rumor is that it's supposed to be coming back. But right now, if you go to like this document right here, it's a long document. I mean, you don't want to copy this and go into your new document and then paste that, especially if you're putting an agenda together for a staff meeting or for your administrators and they see all these long URLs. You don't want that. So what you do want to do, though, especially for your students, is the students don't need to see the URLs, but is to add hyperlinks. And if you've heard of hyperdocs, a hyperdoc isn't a Google Doc with a bunch of links in it, but it's the start of a hyperdoc. But if you go insert link and then you just paste it, now you basically, when you put the cursor over top of it and you click on it, it's going to take you directly to that file. So if you look at the document that I gave you, again, it's a nice clean document, but it has all those links in there so that you can easily access them. So having the links is really important as a teacher, and making sure that the kids are getting that information. Because if you have too many hyperlinks on a page, again, as someone who used to teach some graphic design and design principles, the more they see, the more they get distracted. So you want to keep it nice and clean. And Dominique saying they definitely need to bring it back. They're working on it. I was thinking that one was going to happen until COVID happened, and now their focus is on a bunch of different priorities right now, especially Google Meets. Adding links to it is extremely important. Saving your document, you need to know that the moment you press a cursor, if you look up here, it instantly saves, and that goes through any device. So if you install Google Drive on your phone, again, all of these are collaborative. So you can look at your Google document on your mobile phone, and the moment you type a letter T, if there's data, if there's interconnectivity between the two, those changes are going to save synchronously, instantaneously, okay? And that's important, again, for collaboration with students, because, again, one of the most powerful tools that you can use with a Google Doc is having the students collaborate and have them work synchronously on a document at the exact same time, and knowing that you're not going to have any errors. Previously, we used to use Microsoft Word, and you had to wait or set the time to have it save every 5 minutes or save every minute, and you hope that you didn't do too much within that time frame. Google is instantly. Mikhail is saying, is it possible in Forms? I'm going to assume that is the saving feature. And again, every Google tool is the same. It instantaneously saves. There's no lagging. It's the moment you save, unless you're in offline mode. But if you're in offline mode, the moment you connect or data or Wi-Fi connectivity, it's right up. Sabrina is saying how to find the link of an image. If this is something that you are getting to your students, Sabrina, shoot me an email on that one, because the Explore tool will help you, but it's a little more specific, and it just doesn't give you that information right away. You actually have to click on it and then go to the page if you're getting your students to source the information. But one of the ways that you can explain this to them is that, as I mentioned earlier, the images that the students are using, they're not restricted in usage rights. So if you've ever taught your students how to use Google Images and search for images that are Creative Commons or can be used and modified, this makes sure that it can be reused and modified without any rights. Let's go to the comments section. Again, as we work collaboratively, and this is one of the most important things with Google documents, especially for me as a teacher and for all of you, is the comment section. If you select any part of a text, what you will instantly see, well, this is a hyperlinked document right here, but if I select this, aside from this showing up right here, it's going to show you this little plus button, and the plus button allows you to comment and annotate. And as a teacher, this is really important to you. It's where you give feedback. It's where you can mark assignments in Google Classroom. It's where you can assign tasks collaboratively within your teams. So let's say that I put this here, let's sat on a hit, and I wanted to tell my student that they needed to check their spelling. I could select this text, click the plus button, and it's going to go add a comment. And I could just, as a teacher, write, please check your spelling, and go comment. And this is going to show up in the owner's document. So if this is shared, let's say, between Pete and I'm just making a general comment, and whoever can see this shows up. But if I wanted this right here to go specifically to Pete, one of the nice things about this is I can select this, and again, that plus button shows up. And what I can do is I can type either the @ button or the plus button. And as you see, it shows up with a list of people. So I can go and do this at Pete and then say assign to Pete. And now Pete's going to get an email that's going to say, Pete, you need to fix this. There is some editing that needs to take place, and you need to fix this. And then here it says turn link sharing on. And it says that because I haven't shared this document yet. And that's one of the nice things is if you have two students who are working on a document together, maybe they're working on a movie script, they're creating a little, it could be anything. They're working on their science fair projects or their STEM projects, whatever it may be. They're working collaboratively together. They could be sitting on opposite sides of the classroom, or one's in the library doing research, the other one's in the science room or the STEAM room building their stuff. You know, they're going back and forth together and they haven't shared it. You just click the share button and go comment. And again, that email is automatically going to go to Pete. She's going to get the email. And then when she sees the email, she can say, okay, I fixed it. So this assignment's now shared with Pete, and she can fix the less sat on a hat instead of hit, and then she can check it and say the document's completed. So one of the really powerful things, again, about Google Docs and your productivity tools is that ability to assign tasks to students, to assign tasks to people within your school, anybody that you are sharing the document with. And again, that helps, especially in today's age where we're virtual, that, you know, as we go back to school and we have to try and still maintain this group work, and students are trying to, or as teachers are trying to, you know, think of ways that they can still have group work, although the students aren't face-to-face, you can create an assignment in a Google Doc and share that document with select people, with 5 students in the class, and create, you know, those 5 students to work on the group together. And then as they work on it, the students themselves can assign tasks to fixing it. Or as you check in on that document, you go into the Google Drive and you click on the document and see what they've been doing. You can, you know, assign, you know, say, hey, this is a great start to it, but what if you did this instead? So you can give that anecdotal feedback, which isn't necessarily, you know, graded feedback. It's just making them better. Okay. So comments are a really powerful tool. Something that you're going to also need to know when it comes to the test. Okay. I apologize. The comments keep popping up here, and I get sidetracked and looking at one screen and then the comments. Revision history. As I mentioned earlier, we're in a stage right now where, I mean, students spend more time trying to figure out how to cheat than they do how to actually do the work. And when you look at a document, you can, as a teacher, you may want to look at the revision history. So Pete, if you're on the back end hearing this, can you fix that document for me? Can you edit the hit to hat, if you don't mind? And if you go to File in Google Documents, you will see that you have version history. And the students should figure this out, but they never do, or they're too lazy to do so. If you go to version history, the version history will show who worked on the document and the revisions that were made. So oftentimes you may be working on an assignment and then go, oh, you know, I completely screwed that up and I shouldn't have, you know, I shouldn't have done that. You can go back and see what was there the first time or what was not there. So at 7:57, I created the document and nothing was there. If I had content over here in the actual Google Doc, I could say, this is the version that I want to go back to. Or you can just stay with the current version. If Pete was in this Google Doc and had fixed the hit to hat, it would have said that Pete had made a revision, and we would have seen the revision history, and we could have looked at, okay, which version do we want to use? Now, why I say this is important to you is because what often happens with students is, yeah, as teachers, we don't change our assignments every year. And with technology, I mean, students are smart. They figure out how to go, oh, here's Mr. M's assignment. I'm just going to make a copy of this one. And right here, I'm going to go make a copy of this assignment. And I'm going to put that in my Google Drive. And then I'm just going to share that with my little brother who's coming up into grade 7 next year. And I'm just going to give him all the assignments that I've done so he knows what they are. And they think that they're sneaky that way. And teachers, you know, oftentimes don't pick up on it and they don't figure that one out. So if you go back and look at the version history, I can't tell you how many times I've had a student come into my office and say, Mr. M, this is my document. And I'm like, no, it's not your document. And they're like, yes, it is. I said, well, no, here, look at the version history. The version history was all done by Pete. And you jumped in and you made one edit for, you know, 20 seconds, and all you did was change your name. And look, it shows us this is what Pete's version was, and then your version is, you know, just with your name. And they can't get rid of that. So knowing the revision and the history is important. Okay. So that is, again, one of the things. I'm not 100% sure if they ask you how to do that in the tests, if they say you need to change revision history, but you may have a question in your multiple choice that you need to fix that. And again, if you don't know this, people often refer to this as the snowman, the 3 dots. You can link to this comment. You can delete the comment, which Pete deleted my comment. Or you can edit the comment here. So I can go back and edit the comment, and if I wanted to add more and say, please fix this, and I'm gonna go at Pete, and then there we go. All right, so that's revision history, and the version history of your document. A little sidebar, something that I love to use is Google add-ons. And I don't have it on this user, but it's one called Draftback. Draftback, if you're listening and you have a pen and paper, it is a Google extension. And Google, it literally makes a movie of the entire document that the students created. So again, I have students who have said, yeah, it's my document. And I click the little Draftback button, and it shows that they have only worked on it for 6 seconds, and they literally have typed nothing. So Draftback is a great little tool. So our next one is how to download as, and as I showed you, if we go download, we can right here go download as a Word document, a PDF file, etc. So you may have your administrators that say, I need you to send me a PDF file so that we can add this to the newsletter, etc. And if you're unsure, if you don't know how to do the print PDF, but you can just go download, or if you need to send this to your office, and they are, Word people, that's one way that you can do it, okay? You can also directly from your Google Documents go email as attachment. So if you click this, it's going to directly open up your Gmail and automatically add this file as an attachment to that person. So as Pete has gone through it, again, if I look at version history and go see current version, you will see now that there are another version right here with an anonymous user, and the edit has been made. So that's one way to check it. Okay, inserting images, links, equations, we went through that already. Basically clicking the insert button. If you are a math science teacher, you have the equation features here where you can add things, okay? Put in those special characters. You can use special characters and equations for math in here. I would suggest that if you are a math or science teacher, that you investigate the web app or the add-on called Equatio. It's called Read and Write, and for teachers, it's free and it's awesome. So it's the name is called Equatio, and I think it's called Text and Write or Read and Write. But it is a great tool for adding special characters or doing math work into your slide decks or in your Jamboards, etc. Sharing files, again, we've done that. So just a quick touch, we can click on the share button right here, and we can make this shared publicly or to specific people, just as we have done in the past. In your test, they will ask you specifically to create a Google Doc, add certain images, and then share it with specific people. They get an email every time you change the comment. Yes, if your notifications are set up, then you should get an email every time they fix it. So if they fix the document, you will get a post or a notification that says that. And yes, there is the comment that went up there, Equatio, thank you for sharing that. So if a person B makes a copy of a document, will I be able to tell if that originally came from person A? No, you won't. And unfortunately, there's not a ton that we can do. But if you do check the version history of the document, or if you look at the properties of the document, unless the student is smart enough to copy and paste all the information and then paste it into their new document so it shows that they're the owner, if someone has shared a document, then it'll still say that the owners are coming with it. Basically, they have to copy and paste all the information there. And that's why I use that little app called Draftback, because it'll show if things are copy pasted. So I hope that helps, Sarah. All right. The last is, so you guys know about sharing and collaborating. Again, click these buttons and you can share and either make people editors or non-editors or commenters of the document. And the last one is headers and footers, and this gets people. Oftentimes people don't know how to do that, but all you got to do is just double click at the top of the screen. If you double click at the top of the document, it will take you to the headers tab, And in the headers tab, just like anything else, you can insert an image. So if I wanted to insert, this cat image again, I could insert the image here. I could format it by moving it left and right with some basic formatting features right here. So if this is, a proposal that you're creating, proposal for new Chromebooks for, little ones, for the kindergarten and grade 1 students, this is how you edit your header. And if you want to edit your footer, you just do the exact same thing. Click at the bottom of the page and your footer will show up. Okay. You can also access it by going into format and go to header and footers, and you can change your page numbers. But that's, for the testing purposes, that's all extra stuff. For the testing purposes, what is most important is that you can create a document, add some pictures to it, share a document with select people, check the version history, and add comments and apply apply a specific person to the comments. That's what's important. Okay. All right. Going to the next, back to our slides. Claire is asking, after the boot camp, when do we need to take the test? You can take the test whenever you would like. You could take it today, you could take it tomorrow, you could take it whenever you feel comfortable and ready to go. Okay. Oops. All right. Going back to our Jamboard, little jammy jam. Let's have a quick little session right now. We have 100 people who are viewing right now. So if we go back to the Jamboard, let's see who gets in there first. But if we go to slide or frame 3 or 4, you can add this in there. You can go to frame 5. But here's a fun little check-in that I'm going to show you with the students. Oops. Is right now I got insert a meme of how are you feeling right now. So you get kids in class. How are you, the last week of school, how you've been, social, emotional check-ins, wellness check-ins. What you can do here, if you're looking for a GIF, if you guys know what GIF is, or some people call them GIFs, like the peanut butter, Jiffy peanut butter. But if you go to pictures, you can add an image and again, do a safe search. And here I just prompted one already that said overwhelmed. The only difference is I put .gif for the file. If you show your kids that, they're going to love you for that because they can have a little bit of fun. Again, it's about you as a teacher setting the norms so that kids are not posting inappropriate things. But let's just go hungry. And my 4-year-old son is loving Winnie the Pooh right now. He's on a Pooh kick. So here I put this. If you go select, it's going to insert. I love the Star Wars. Always hope there is. GIFs take a little bit longer because they got to pull the small animation file in there. But when you only have a class of 30 students, the GIFs pop up and they're good to go. So again, just one of those that you can put in for social emotional check-ins. These are great if you're using Google Meets and you create a little Jamboard and you just say, hey, let me just do a check-in in the middle of your lesson. Lets the kids know I'm getting it or I'm not getting it, because in Google Meets, it's really hard to, determine the students' engagement levels. Right now, I see, 98 people in this session right now, and most of you are probably sitting there listening, but at the same time, doing WhatsApp or checking your phones. So our students are going to be doing the exact same thing. So again, just some small ways to get them engaged. This is just a great tool to do that. And if I didn't show you this one, we would have been missed out. You can 100% guarantee that if you don't take this test within the next 3 months, the Jamboard for sure is going to be in the next Google Level 1 certification, because it is such a valuable tool. There are a billion ways that this can be done. One example that was phenomenal for me is at my school, we have a big video editing booth for media production. And if I was to show you, I can't show you right now, but you see the Google head office behind me. So I have a green screen, obviously, but then up here on this side, I have a box light, and I have a box light here, and then I have a ring light over there. But for my students, I'd be asking them, okay, here is just a scenario of a broadcast table. And in this, I would just import a bunch of pictures of, look, I would put a broadcast table here, and then just grab a couple pictures of some lights. And I would say to them in this, slide deck, saying, okay, I want you to show me how you would set up the lighting, or what angles you would put the lighting to best eliminate all the shadows to have an effective green screen. So, I mean, that might seem a little over the top for me doing, broadcast media, etc. But at the same time, if you're using littles and you're, you could put a bunch of pictures of fruits and vegetables, and then divide the columns in half, and then just say, okay, I want you to, drag over what is a fruit and what is a vegetable, and away you go. You just have that functionality. Again, the possibilities are limitless with Jamboard, especially right now, using it as a whiteboard, because we don't have this. And one of the other perks to Jamboard is if you are using, I mean, I can install Jamboard on my mobile phone, and through my mobile phone, I could access this Jamboard, and then I have, a pen writing ability to be able to write on the Jamboard at the same time, because it's touchscreen. And I mean, I'm not sure how many of you are using them, but our school is it's a Chromebook school. So all of our Chromebooks are touchscreens. So one of the great ways you can do this, especially if you're, doing distance education, is have your students use the Chromebook as a writing device, so they're getting that, the penmanship skills in there. So again, possibilities are limitless. So just a little brain break, a little bit of fun. Some of you are now going to put, GIFs in everything that you do, which is fun, especially to capture the students' engagement. They want to know that you're a real person, and that you have emotions as well. So use the tools. And again, remember that whatever you pull from Google as an image, you're always going to get it as a safe search. So for the most part, the stuff that is inappropriate should be limited, not like searching GIFs in your WhatsApp or your Instagram, and all of a sudden things are crazy. Okay. It's called Draftback. Gina is the name, and it's not as easy as it may think. You gotta, understand it a little bit. But if you find it in the web extensions or in the Chrome App Store, it's a great tool to use. Oops. All right, let's go to our next one, which is Google Slides. All right, Google Slides. It's pretty simple. This one, we're going to go through this relatively short and sweet on how to use slides and create presentations, and how to share and print out those slides. So let's use our nice, cool slides.new. So we open up a new slide deck. For those of you that are thinking about for those of you that are thinking about going into your level 2, you are going to need to know how to edit masters and stuff like that. But right now, you just need to know how to create a slide and edit some of the themes. All right. Again, you want to encourage your students to make sure that they title the document properly. So test slide. And the moment I click elsewhere, it's going to save it. It's going to give you, again, that option, save to drive. And just to reinforce it, you'll see that this document is ready for offline use because I checked that off in my Google Drive. So you'll also see here, it says move. It allows me to go back and choose the folder that I want it in. I'm going to put it in my lesson plans and go move so that we're good to go right there. All right. So, I mean, we're all educators. I'm going to assume that many of you have taught and you've used PowerPoint before, and the functionality between the two is pretty much the same. A lot of people complain, and I'll be here just to answer this for you. When we get to Google Sites, a lot of people complain and say there's no functionality with it. Like, what happened to all the animations? What happens to the, the things that that we were able to do? Google's done that for a reason. They've taken all that functionality away. And the reason for it is the main purpose of this, when you think about a Google slide deck, is the students sharing the information. I get so annoyed, and whenever I have asked my students to make presentations for me or make a slide deck for me, I always say, I want one transition, that's it, and don't limit the animations. I don't want the typewriter going tick, 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 tick. I don't want explosions going on the screen and stuff like that, because that takes away from the whole purpose of what you're trying to do. The purpose of what you're trying to do is present the information and present the content, not all the glitz and glam. So just so that you have an understanding of that, Google's very, things are very simplified. So if you look at the Google logo, again, it's extremely simple. It's very basic, and yet there's about 100-page document written about why it's done that way. But that, in a nutshell, is why there's limited functionality with it, okay? So if we're looking at it, choosing a theme, it's extremely simple. Once we open up a new slide deck, there's a theme button right here, and you'll see that it automatically defaults to opening it because it's a new presentation. If you are creating a new presentation, you can just click this theme. If you are interested in themes, again, if you become a level 2 instructor, they may ask you to create a template. And then if you create a template, you can share that within your domain, so that, let's say you create a Google Mania template that everybody uses for, let's say, training on Google. And that way it falls within the templates. And if you want to, you can go into your import theme, and through that, it'll allow you to import themes that you download off the internet, or it may be, again, a template that you import. But as you create a theme, you'll see here that you get a blank slide, which this is always your intro slide, or your title slide. But then when you click the plus button, or right beside the plus button right here, you will see that you have title slide, section header, title and body, one column, title and body, main points, etc. So that as you're developing your presentation, again, you're just putting an intro, And as you go to the next slide, you can say, okay, my favorite is always using 2 columns with a title. So if we were talking about Google, again, I might get the kids or the students or the teachers to put something in bullet points, and then maybe a picture or something here to support the evidence or support what they're talking about, and keeping the information short and sweet. Again, as we type something in Google, it's important to note that when you select text, you can, and it's hidden, so pay attention right here. Here's the Google button, or here's Google, here's the text that I'm selecting. I go up here, and there is the plus button where I can add a comment. So I can do the exact same thing here and put, as all of you now show up because I've emailed you, but I can add a comment and do the exact same thing and assign a task to this one or to a specific person in the class. So as you create slides, you can also right click on it and you can go duplicate slide. And if you create a slide and you need to change the placement of a slide, you literally can just drag and drop it down and move it from place to place. Presenting slides. This is not on the test, but as we move into virtual learning and virtual teaching, you will see here that if I use the present button, it's going to broadcast this as a full screen. So there is my slide. And that's what most of us do all the time, is we just click the present button. But what a lot of teachers don't know is that if you're presenting a lesson, I could do this with you guys, but we're YouTube living, so we have chat going on over here and you're asking some questions, and Pete's got all the questions under control. Thanks, Pete. But what you can do is you can, in your presenter view, you can present with a question and answer. So me as a presenter, I can present this as a presenter, but you can share a Q&A, and what that does, let me see if I can present from, oops. All right, sorry about that. So this is what I meant to show you guys. If I go present and I go presenter view with Q&A, I get this as a presenter window. If I go to audience tools, I can go start new, and what it does is it gives me presenter, but it allows the students to put in this URL, and it allows them to type questions as I'm presenting. So unlike what we're doing right now through a Google Meet, you could share this link on a Google Classroom, for instance, and say, here's the present, or in a Google Meet, you could say, you know, here's the link to the slide deck, and the students can go through it, but it also at the same time allows them to have a Q&A. With using Google Meets, I mean, you don't necessarily, you're getting the students' engagement, but again, if you're doing distance learning and you don't have the ability to broadcast through video or share through video, this is one way that you can get the students to you know, at least give you some engagement and provide questions to you. And lastly, if we look here again, downloading, you can download this as a PowerPoint. And if you've looked at the initial slide that I gave you. So when we looked at the image that showed up at the beginning, you saw this. And what that was the first slide of my slide deck. And all I did was I went to File, and I went to Download and JPEG. And as I do this, it says, do you want to download the entire slide or the first slide? So here, it just downloaded that slide as a JPEG file, and then I just used that file as a source file for something else. Okay, so presenting in the test, if you look at the task for Google Slides, it's extremely straightforward. There's not a lot that you need to do. Most importantly, you're going to have to create a slide deck. I'll show you one last thing, which is inserting a video into it, which is a YouTube video, which most of you do. Again, you're going to have to highlight and create a hyperlink to an outside website, and this is all straightforward, okay? But for the most part, you're literally just creating a basic slide deck and sharing it with specific people on the test, okay? So if we go in here, again, you have that insert button. And if you go to video, video is automatically going to default to YouTube, which is awesome. So if I just typed in my name, it will show you right now this broadcast that's there. And we can select that one and put that inside the video. The nice thing about doing this is if you're creating content for your students and you find YouTube videos, you never have to, a lot of teachers share YouTube videos. They're like, oh, here's a YouTube video. And then instantly, because it prompts to YouTube, they get all that extra stuff. They get all the extra videos that you never know what's going to show up. Hopefully your administrators have put safe search. Your Google administrators have put safe search in it. But I mean, you know, we're here in Kuwait, in a Muslim country. The last thing that I want is a Google certified educator video to show up, and then all of a sudden a Drake video with, you know, girls dancing in bikinis, and I'm like, oh my gosh. That's one of the perks to throwing information into a Google slide is when you create your lessons, you can just, you know, put some text at the beginning and say, this is what you need to do, and use the YouTube video that's embedded inside. All right, and that in a nutshell is the basic tasks of what you need to do for your slide deck. There is a couple things that are in there where it says, you know, you may have to insert a picture. But again, if you started using Google Documents and using the different things, you will know that, again, you're just getting insert. You can go insert shape, you can insert a table. All this type of stuff is you know, all right there for you. You don't need to know this like a pro. You just need to know how to create a slide deck and be able to share it. And most importantly, not create a slide deck that is just a ho-hum slide deck, but something that is engaging to the students. So again, being able to put a video in there or adding some text in there is going to be key, okay? And lastly for today, we have Gmail. So let me, give me 1 second here. I'm just waiting for my Gmail to load. the video started, and I have about 90 emails that have just showed up. All right, let's have a look at Gmail. So I'm going to drag Gmail into my screen here for a second. Oops. And again, for those of you who are not sure how to open up Gmail, because it is one of the most useful tools, you just quite simply open up a new tab, click on the Gmail button. Now, Gmail is, it could be a monster. It could be your nemesis, or it could just be one of your best friends, or completely overwhelming for some of you. When I open up my students' emails, not that I personally open up my students' emails, but when I look at students' emails, I often see the inbox of like 2,000 emails because they get flooded with Google Classroom assignments that get directed right to their inbox. And then they don't ever actually look at anything. So one of the things that you need to do is just understand the basics of Gmail and how to set up your inbox, and then how to schedule some appointments from your inbox. So most of you have a Gmail account, and you're all familiar with being able to compose a message, which is quite simply just clicking on the compose button. So one of the drawbacks to being a trainer is I literally get about 400 emails every day that come from trainers all over the world, and then from people participating in training seminars. But to create an email, I mean, this is very generic and very simple. Anybody who is in your directory, anybody who you've emailed before, anybody who's shared a file with you, they all show up in the in your to folder. So if I type in again, Pete, he automatically shows up, or she shows up right there, sorry. The subject, we all know what a subject is. And then when you're typing in your content to your email, again, you're just typing in your content. Please, if you're doing this with students, please teach them to have introductions and salutations where they're actually composing emails properly. There's nothing worse than getting an email that you don't know who it's from, or a student just saying, I need this. I usually just delete those emails, but at the bottom, you have your text editing features right here, which are basic. And then at the far bottom, you have the ability to add Bitmojis if you are using Bitmojis, attach a document, and attach links, as well as some emojis, your Google Drive, pictures, and then this is confidentiality. So if you're using the confidentiality button, what the confidentiality button means is that you have to give somebody a password in order to open their email. And that can be important if you're sending sensitive information by clicking that one. It's not something that you specifically need to know, but this is just a nice to know for you that are using this. Organizing your inbox. If you look up here, you will see, and this is what most people miss, is you have a toggle button, and the toggle button allows you to change the views. If you like the Microsoft Office view, then maybe you want the preview. So if I click on looking at a safe one right here, this is coming from a bunch of Google trainers that are looking, I'm looking for Google trainers, blah, 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 blah. But if you like the preview screen, again, it's just a matter of how you toggle your views, whether you don't want to, you know, a preview screen or not. But again, in your tasks, they may ask you to set up your inbox so that you have a split screen, so that it is a preview menu on this side, or they may ask you to set it up so there is a horizontal split. So when you click on an email, it shows the preview down here, okay? You will see up top here that it prioritizes stuff into your primary. Your primary is all the main emails, and then Google filters things, whether they're coming from YouTube or if it happens to be ads and promotions. One of the things is creating boxes that you have or folders, if you will, within your Gmail. So in your Gmail, it's exactly the same as Google Drive, but all you do is scroll to the bottom, and they're referred to as labels. So if you click the More button and we scroll down, you will see that you have at the bottom called Manage Labels and Labels. So you will need to create labels on your test. And to do that, you just go Create New Label. It's going to ask Test Label. You can put it as a subheader or a subcategory under one of a different file. So if I had this under Google Certified Trainers, and then just create. So now, if I go up top, you will see that I have test label. Again, if I right click on it, not right click. If I click the snowman right here, I can change the color of it to make it a certain color. And that allows you to just categorize and allow some differentiation in your inbox so that you can go through and drag and drop your emails. Within level 1 certification, you do not need to create filters. So I could create a filter that for Calendar Wrangler is a bunch of PDs that I join. I could create a filter that every Calendar Wrangler that I get goes to a specific folder. You don't need to know that in level 1, okay? The other thing is we're going to talk about keeps, but if you look over here, you will see that you have Google Calendar, Google Keep. We'll talk about those. And the last one is tasks. You will be asked to create tasks. And what tasks are is quite simply a to-do list. That's all it is. So within your tasks, you can right here just create subject codes. I can add a new task to this and go call mom, just like that. And if I have completed it, I just check it off and it's going to disappear. Okay. If you go to your inbox, my inbox isn't loading. Come on. Let me go to this one here, this reminder. If I go to my inbox, one of the buttons that you will also see as well right here when you click on an email is a snooze button. And the snooze button allows you to snooze this so that, oh, this is important, I've read it, but I need to set myself a reminder for tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. so that I make sure that I get that done. So you can just, again, press the snooze button, and tomorrow that email will populate again. So it makes sure that you are ready to go and ready to take that or address that email. And lastly, the last thing that you need to do is, as you compose an email, oops, sorry. Let me close this one. In your email, now what you can do, and there's an actual new feature on your mobile phones in your Gmail, is you can start a meeting or join a meeting. So by joining a meeting or starting a meeting, I can click Google Meet and go start a meeting, and it'll automatically open up a Google Meet. So if you need to do that, I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but if you are in a school domain, you can create nicknames. So for instance, let's say my class is Intro to Robotics. I could have like Intro Robotics 1, and that could be my nickname. If my students knew that that was my class code, the moment they typed in Intro Robotics 1, they would automatically join. They would automatically join a Google Meet. Okay, so I see a question here that I have to go to settings gear, and that might be because my setting is set up differently. So right here I have, again, if we're looking at for Sarah and Erica, you will see that mine shows as the split pane right here. If you go to settings, you can see again, and I didn't go on this one, I apologize. You can go to your density, whether you want to compact or read first, or set your multiple boxes, or go with no split pane or below. So your settings feature right here will allow you to do that as well. Larry, no, you do not need to worry about filters. It's saying that has been a thorn in my side, and it can be if you don't know how to set them up properly. But if you do know how to set them up properly, they literally will save your life, okay? If you're joining me tomorrow, Larry, I'll throw a little YouTube video on you that you can watch from at a Google innovator who created a 2-click something to save their life in Gmail. All right. In a nutshell, that basically covers it. If you go back to, or for today, if you go back, you will see Gmail tasks. And then the tasks features, it tells you what you are going to need to know for the test, which is basically create an email, share it, add some content to it, so search for a message that came from a specific person and create a label. And here it says change your inbox to priority box. And in order to change your inbox to a priority box, that is just clicking the settings button right here and changing your inbox right here to say important first, and that sets your priorities, okay? And that's really all you need to know. We're going to focus on our groups next class. So that will help you finish off this part right here. Going back to the slide deck, here is that last sheet that I just showed you. This is probably going to be one of the best resources for you to help you through the test. Again, all the information, you can click on these and help you go through them. As you go to the bottom on that page, you're going to have the Eric Kurtz and the Tyler Tavener video links as well. For some of you who are ambitious, I've given you a G Suite scenario game. It's not from me. It was created by another trainer as well. Us trainers love to share our content so that we're making sure that people are getting the most out of everything. But as you go through this, when you click here in this yellow box, it will open up a new slide deck, and you're going to get about 40 or 50 cards. The yellow ones are the easiest, the greens are medium, and the reds are the hardest. So as you click through it, here's a scenario that you may be sampled with in the test. It's going to say you're starting to plan your next research trip and you need to meet as a team, ideally over a video conference. After the meeting is set, you're running late on that day, so you want to quickly email the other guests and let them know. What would you do? Okay. So again, as you go through this, it gives you a task and then possible solutions so that you can get this done. Again, I'm trying to make this as user-friendly for you so that you're getting the most out of it. And for participating today, I would greatly appreciate it if you click on this link right here. If you click on the link, provide some feedback for today. That'll help me create better training sessions for you guys. I ask if the session went well. Don't be too hard today. It's my first StreamYard, okay? And also, are you getting the right resources to help you through that? If you complete the feedback survey, you're going to get a certificate of participation, which will give you 3 professional hours, which many of you can just create if you wanted to, but it actually holds some merit because I am a Google certified trainer. And other than that, we'll be back again tomorrow for an extremely extensive full session. We are going to go through the rest of the productivity tools, which is about 11 of them, through Google Sheets, through Google Meets, through Google Sites, through Hangouts, through all of them. So that first bit of time will definitely is going to be a busy one. So be prepared for tomorrow. I hope you found this useful, and thanks for watching, and we will see you tomorrow. Hey, it's Les here, that little ed tech guy. Thanks for watching the video. Be sure to press the subscribe button and stay tuned for more videos. Cheers! Hey, Karen, the link is in the slide deck. It is in the last slide right here. Let me exit it and copy. I'll put it in there for you. All right, thanks everyone. Thanks Pete in the background. And we will see you all tomorrow. Have a great day.